Good Friday morning. It's 9:29 and welcome back.
Here's what we're focusing on this half hour. Polls show one thing, but is a shocker quietly looming in the French election? We're talking live to a UW professor who knows the country intimately, and we're going to ask him what a new president there will mean for all of us.
Plus, Fox News in crisis. Another big-name talent could be on the way out. Why the man who wrote the book on Rupert Murdoch says the network as we know it is, and here's the quote, effectively dead.
Ooh, and later, researchers in Texas may have quietly just cured diabetes. That's right, we said cured diabetes. We'll explain why they say infecting your pancreas with a virus might be the answer.
Also, we're streaming the show behind the scenes live right now on Facebook. Our social media host Tyler is over there, and we've got a lot to get to this half an hour. So while you watch on TV, be sure to watch on Facebook too. But
especially since the conversation has to do with this first story.
Right.
Lots of opinions, I'm guessing. 70% of all apples in this entire country come from right here in Washington State. So when we say apple, you might picture any one of these lovely varieties. Do they look familiar?
Yes, they do.
There are so many of them.
But one brand new apple, not here on the table, is going to hit the market in 2019. And you, me, Tyler, none of us have tasted it before. And it's only going to be grown in eastern Washington.
Pretty cool, right? Take a look. This is the article appearing this week on NPR about Washington apple growers sinking their teeth into the new Cosmic Crisp brand apple. Farmers are planting the trees by the millions, and they'll be in stores in the fall of 2019.
Okay, but why? I mean, Red Delicious, this guy right here, oops.
It has delicious in the name.
Absolutely. Currently the largest apple crop in our state. But tastes apparently, according to farmers and experts, changing. People are not eating as much of these as they used to, which is driving prices down.
That's a problem for farmers. Other varieties that have popped up over the years, like Honeycrisp, which is underneath.
Right here.
This one, popular, but a little bit tougher to grow on a larger scale.
That's where this new apple comes in. Any farmer in our state can plant one of these. That's the Cosmic Crisp. Take a look at it. Dark red with yellow freckles. They actually were born, get this, 2 decades ago when a man who worked for Washington State University suggested, hey, look, the school should really work with our state's apple industry to create new apple varieties. The very first tree that came from these efforts is called WA38. Super sexy name, right? But it still exists, that very tree, the single tree, and it's growing the Cosmic Crisp brand today. And now all the other trees that have come from that mother tree, they are clones of that tree.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, the science alone. So here we are 20 years later, and farmers are ordering these seedlings overwhelmingly, but they're currently only available to Washington farmers because they're the ones who supported the breeding program behind it.
Okay, so we know how these taste, but how do the Cosmic Crisp brands taste? We are told, because we haven't been able to taste them yet, their overall crispness is really, really crisp, that they're this sort of perfect combination of sweet and acidic. Also, this part I really like, they are very slow to brown.
You know when you'd get apples in your lunch and you'd open them and you're like, oh, they're all brown. So how will a new apple fare when so many people already have their favorites? We're going to bring Tyler in on this conversation. Tyler, I would imagine there is high opinion about apples.
There's a lot of opinion, but I want to just say first, I'm from Spokane, Eastern Washington. And what do? Every fall, you go to Green Bluff and you pick your own apples. Well, my favorite variety from there was called Macintosh, so that's kind of my favorite apple story. But lots of people on our Facebook Live are saying Honeycrisp. We want to hear some different answers. So head to our Facebook Live, join the conversation. We're going to be there all half hour.
Tyler, thank you. Love it or hate it, ask most Americans, and they will tell you what they think of Fox News Channel, the dominant leader in cable news. Now, the personal biographer for the man who owns the entire Fox empire is predicting, get this, that the cable channel as we know it is over. So it's the author of this book right here. His name is Michael Wolff. He wrote this book about the 21st Century Fox chairman Rupert Murdoch back in 2008, but he's still one of the experts in this subject. He's the definitive source on all things related to the Murdoch empire. This week he went on CNBC and said he is predicting Fox News is finished and we're entering a new era. Here's his evidence. He's pointing to the departure of the former Fox News chair, Roger Ailes. This guy right here at the beginning of last year. This all had to do with a sexual harassment scandal. Then earlier this week, the resignation of the current co-president, that's Bill Shine, right there, both linked to this widespread culture that may have allowed sexual harassment to flourish. Next, Wolff is saying, look at all the talent changes. These folks used to own prime time. We're talking about Megyn Kelly going to NBC, Bill O'Reilly leaving the network, and now the latest prediction is Sean Hannity may be the next guy on the way out. Lots of sources pointing to that. We'll have to keep you posted.
I think the biggest question people are going to have is this really potentially the end of Fox News as a powerful voice in conservative politics?
Yeah, so according to this author, Rupert Murdoch's sons that now run the daily operation of the company, they took over for him. Well, he says, look, they've never actually wanted their dad's politics or politics in general to be part of the news business. So this influence seems to be coming from them. So that could be a very real possibility.
A lot of changes ahead for sure. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Coming up this Sunday, speaking of politics, which has been in the news on all the cable news channels as well, this Sunday the people of France will head to the polls to elect a brand new president. And the whole world will be watching. Will it be independent centrist frontrunner Emmanuel Macron or his far-right National Front rival Marine Le Pen? You may be thinking, but this is France. Why should I care about the politics there? I live here. Well, our next guest says this election is unlike any other with the potential to seriously impact the rest of the world. And yes, we do mean here in the United States as well.
Yeah, that's right. Richard Watts is actually the chair of the Department of French and Italian Studies at the University of Washington, where he's also associate professor. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Would you help us kind of understand, these two candidates are unlike any candidates we've really seen in a French election at this point before. Why are they resonating with the French population?
Well, the part of the problem is in this election is that the candidates aren't resonating generally, right? So there's a real difficulty of a sort of clear split between, let's say, the left and the right. And in fact, these are two candidates who don't represent any of the traditional major parties in France. The Front National has been around for quite a long time, but has always been considered a marginal party and has only been in the second round of the election on one other occasion in 2002. And Emmanuel Macron has created a new party from whole cloth. I mean, this is a party that didn't exist a year ago. So it's a very peculiar election, and I think that most people who will vote for Macron, I mean, this is what the polls show, will do so not out of great enthusiasm for Emmanuel Macron, but out of a fear of Marine Le Pen.
How did we get here? Because this is something that we've studied a lot here when it comes to our elections here in the United States. But how have elections been in previous years, previous decades? Have you seen a pattern developing there?
Well, certainly there's been a long-term alternation between the center-right and the center-left, between the party that's now called Les Républicains, and the party that's still known as the Parti Socialiste, which may well not exist after the next legislative elections. It's a party in crisis. What has been a constant, though, in French politics has been very high levels of unemployment. So the unemployment rate hovers around 10%. It's no surprise that the approval ratings of François Hollande were around 4% a few months ago. Right?
Insane.
Yes,
oh my gosh.
Yes. So what you have, and some analysts of this election have said that what you have is a sort of end of the traditional political parties and the end of the split between left-wing politics and right-wing politics, and a split between those who identify as working class or, let's say, those who don't belong to the elite and those who identify with the elite, those who identify themselves as being upper middle class and above. So it's a sort of economic split in the country.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Right. And there are a lot of analogies with our own election.
I'm wondering if you could help us kind of understand our relationship with France, too. I mean, this election really does impact us living here in the U.S. and our relationship with Europe, with France, around the globe, in a way that maybe previous elections haven't.
Indeed. I think that we forget the degree of political stability that Europe, the institution of Europe, of the European Union, has brought to that part of the world. And it's not as if Europe has sort of unfolded smoothly over these last 50 years and that there haven't been problems with the way in which the economics of Europe have functioned. But there has been a great degree of political stability in a part of the world that just 60, 70 years ago was in total disarray and in total conflict. The election of Marine Le Pen is extraordinarily unlikely at this point. Emmanuel Macron is 23% ahead in the polls. These are the latest polls from this morning, the last polls before the election. There's not likely to be a major surprise. But there was, at a certain point, a real threat that Marine Le Pen could be elected, and this meant the end of Europe as we know it. And that would have a dramatic impact on political relations with the rest of the world, not just the U.S., and economic relations as well. Macron, in that regard, he's the candidate of continuity. He is a great believer in Europe as a social project, political project, and an economic project.
Now, Le Pen may seem like a long shot now, but she and Macron were two that emerged from 11 candidates, a field of 11 candidates. So what were voters saying by electing her to be one of the top two there, compared to the other candidates who were available?
Right. I mean, it's a very profound statement. So I mentioned that something similar happened in 2002. At that time, Marine Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, a noted racist and xenophobe, made it to the second round, and that was a great surprise. What people were expressing then is similar to what they're expressing now, those who voted for the Front National. It's simply a sense of frustration with politics as they have operated for the last 40, 50 years in France. What's different here is that Marine Le Pen may come out of the second round election with something like 38% of the vote. This turns her marginal extreme right party into a major player in French politics in the legislative elections and in elections going forward. It positions her as the opposition politician in France. And in fact, many people remarked after the major debate between the two candidates a few nights ago that, in fact, Marine Le Pen was already positioning herself as the opposition. And much of what she said was not to garner additional votes, but simply to begin to position herself in opposition to the likely administration of Emmanuel Macron.
And with the destruction of the traditional parties, there is a vacuum, so who steps up but Marine Le Pen?
Indeed,
yeah.
Indeed. And the legislative elections take place just a few weeks after the presidential election. It's not likely, it doesn't seem likely at this point that Emmanuel Macron will be able to constitute a majority. So he may well be in what they call a cohabitation arrangement where the prime minister is from a different party than the president. And in those sorts of contexts, very little happens, very little gets done, and it's built-in gridlock. So there are real concerns even beyond this presidential election. Even if things go the way that most people imagine they will at this point, that Macron will win, there's real concern for what comes after that.
Well, definitely everyone will be watching from around the world come Sunday. We really appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Richard Watts, Associate Professor of French at University of Washington.
Coming up, cruise season officially underway here in Seattle. Lots of vacations beginning, but the whole industry changing at breakneck speed, exploding in popularity.
So we wanted to know what the next big thing will be and why even one's critics are now loving the cruise life. So we invited the president of Holland America Line to join us live. We'll ask him all those questions next.
And Tyler, people have some strong opinions about apples.
That's right. The Apple War is on our Facebook Live right now. We're getting a lot of the common ones, Fuji, Honeycrisp, but there are some lesser-known apples that people like the Pippin, says Bruce, and Heather says the Sweet Tango is the best apple ever. So head to our Facebook Live. We'll read some more responses coming up later on.
Good morning and welcome back. Cruise season is officially underway in Seattle.
And leading the season, our hometown cruise line, Holland America Line, and cruise company president Orlando Ashford is here this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So what is it about the cruise industry? I mean, it is just crazy growing all over the place. I mean, I feel like I pick up the paper and online every day there's something new that's a new line that's being added somewhere.
Well, the secret is out. Cruising is the best value in vacations. I think cruising has grown over 62% over the last 10 years. And so more and more people are realizing it's a more efficient way to explore the world. You only have to unpack once. We take you to all kinds of wonderful places, and we can help you negotiate and navigate through and see lots of wonderful things. It's a great vacation value, and more people are starting to figure it out.
There are a lot of cruise lines out there, but Holland America in particular seems to be especially equipped to kind of handle the way that it's evolved over the years, and you seem to be at the front line of that. What do you think makes you different than some of the other lines?
Well, Holland America Line's been doing this for a long time. So we've been in existence over 140 years, up to 144 to be exact. And so we know how to execute a good cruise. All right. We've been going to Alaska here for over 70 years. We're celebrating our 70-year anniversary this year of taking people to Alaska and helping them learn and understand Alaska. We go to over 400 ports, 120 countries, all 7 continents. So we are a brand that explores the world. And so for people that like to travel, that really like to touch, feel, and taste a destination, well, Holland America Line is the perfect partner to help you do that.
So when I think of cruise lines, I have to admit that I think of like tropical destinations. And so it surprised me that y'all are headquartered in Seattle, but I love it. I mean, and anytime we have a CEO from a local company, we want to ask them, why is this such a great place to do business and to have your corporate headquarters? So
yeah, that's a question I get asked all the time when I meet people and they find out what I do. They say, oh, well, when are you going back to Florida? Right. I'm not going back to Florida. I live here. We're based here. So Holland America Line's been here over 30 years. A number of reasons. Seattle's a great city. We got here early and we've been part of the boom and watching Seattle grow. Seattle's a great gateway to Alaska. Alaska is a strong part of our business. Seattle's a great gateway to the world. As I mentioned before, we're a global business. And then we have a good connection from a values perspective. I think this Pacific Northwest values really aligns with our values as Holland America Line. And so it's a wonderful place. We have 1,600 employees located right here, and our offices are right down the way. And we've been here, and we just built a brand new building. So not only are we committed, we're recommitted. Awesome. We built a new building. We'll be here a long time.
How do you combat any potential perceptions that come up from when things happen in the news? Because usually if a cruise line is in the news, it's because there was an outbreak of norovirus or something happened. And so if someone's never been on a cruise before, they might start to associate that solely with that kind of a travel.
I'm glad you asked that question. I mean, so part of what we're trying to do, part of the reason I'm here on the show is to talk about those things directly. So you talked about norovirus. Less than 1% of the cases of norovirus actually happen on a ship. You have a much greater opportunity to bump into something like that in the mall or in a restaurant or some other venue. 80% of cases of norovirus actually happen in a restaurant, don't happen on a ship. But the issue is when that happens, you go home. And people don't equate it to something specific. So it becomes more of a story. So we're just trying to inform people. We spend time monitoring that. If there's any issue, we regulate it. We box it up and make sure that we clean and take care of things. And so it's really a not issue at all. And so for people that cruise or experience cruising, they understand that and it's not an issue. So we're trying to get our cruising friends to invite maybe some of the folks that haven't had a chance to cruise to experience it, and we'll get over all of those things that people are nervous about. And when they realize how wonderful cruising is, they tend to get hooked.
That is exactly how we took our first cruise, was because we had a good friend who was like, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. And we took my mom and my dad on a cruise, and it was just a fantastic vacation. So tell me about Seattle. Why is this such a good jumping off point for cruises? Maybe versus Vancouver or Portland or maybe other ports. Why is Seattle so great for the beginning place for a cruise?
Yeah, well, those places that you name are wonderful places as well.
Sure.
So we don't want to knock those places.
No.
But we love Seattle. We love Seattle. And so we live here. Seattle is a boom town. It's growing. There's some wonderful things that we're doing. We've got wonderful partnerships with many of the local businesses. You were talking about apples before. We have Washington apples on the ship. We have Washington wine on the ship.
Yes.
And any other of the local businesses that we like to support. So for that reason, people will come, spend a couple of days in Seattle enjoying themselves, get on a cruise, and then go to Alaska or go south to Mexico or other parts of the world. So it's a great combination. And again, that efficiency of seeing something land-based, getting on a cruise, seeing multiple ports, only having to unpack that one time, and being able to lean back into the cruise and enjoy the elements on the cruise, whether it's food, wine, music, wonderful entertainment, shows, and then coming into a port in the morning and then spending the day exploring that destination. I like to say what's great about travel is it gives you a chance to grab a little bit of that location, take it with you, and you leave a little bit of yourself behind. And that process is what makes the world a better place.
Is that what you mean when you say that travel has a higher purpose? It's not just, taking a trip.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think in today's times, I've had a chance to work all around the world. I've had a chance to live overseas. I spent a few years in Turkey, and that process was transformative for me. You learn a little bit about how you think and how you're wired, and you hopefully, if you're open, you can expand that. And that's the beauty of travel. I did a speech a little over a year ago, and it talked about how travel can transform the world. And if people get a chance to go out and explore, break bread, have a drink with somebody from another culture, it's hard to have negative energy toward that culture, and I think we need more of that.
I love it. Last couple of seconds here, I just want to ask you what's your prediction? What's the next big thing in cruising?
Well, the big thing in cruising for us is Oprah Winfrey going to be on our ship this summer.
Awesome.
Is she coming to Seattle?
She's not. Some of her friends are. Some of her friends are.
Good enough for me.
Yeah, some of her friends will join board in Seattle. We'll go up to Alaska, and then
Awesome.
she's going to join us in Juneau. But we're pretty excited about that,
awesome.
and it's a kind of a thumbs up for Holland America Line.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your time. This is really fascinating for us, and I admitted to him that I have not been on a cruise before.
I
so
know a guy, and we can take care of that.
Embarrassing. I'm like, this sounds great. Never been on one, sorry.
Let us take care of that for you.
Thank you
We'd
so
love to.
much.
We'd love
Thanks
to
for
host
making
you.
time for us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, did researchers just quietly cure diabetes?
This is crazy. Maybe watching some new medical trials right now unfolding in Texas. We're going to explain exactly how something called DNA transfer may be the key into all of this.
And take a look at your screen for our Friday trivia. We will be revealing the answer on the other side of this break.
Oh, I know the answer to this.
Oh, I have no idea.
Take a look at your screen. This is the Friday trivia. What do you call a group of owls? I have to sit this one out because I know the answer.
I guessed colony, and I already know I'm incorrect.
Yeah.
What is
Parliament.
the answer?
No. It's Parliament.
You've got to be
Parliament
kidding
of
me.
owls.
That's ridiculous.
I love it.
Parliament?
I love it.
Okay.
I wish it was a parliament of newscasters.
It is
It
so.
should be.
Let it be so.
On a much more serious note, this is a fantastic
Exciting.
story. Millions of Americans suffer from diabetes, but a cure may actually be coming.
Yeah, Texas Public Radio broke this incredible news this week. No insulin shots, diabetes cure under study in San Antonio. Researchers in Texas say they created new sections of DNA and added them to a virus, then injected that virus with the new DNA into mice. Well, it turns out the virus infected the animal's cells, spread the new DNA, and actually started sparking those cells to produce insulin on their own.
How cool is that? So far, researchers say it looks like a gene transfer could be a permanent solution for diabetes, a fix because the cells keep replicating themselves with that new DNA. Now, in humans, this might involve taking a pill once and being cured in some cases, or maybe for certain patients, taking a pill once a day, which is still better
than shots.
That's right, and blood and
tests.
everything else.
Oh my gosh. So it's still in the testing phases, obviously, but again, could be a game changer for anyone with diabetes.
And now we want to talk about apples.
Yeah,
again.
bringing it back around to apples.
We love the apples. Tyler, come on in here. We've been asking folks about their favorite apples because
right.
people have serious opinions about apples.
They do, and my unofficial tally, first of all, says that Honeycrisp is by far the most popular, but also the most expensive.
Oh.
That's what people are saying, so that's the downside of the
Yeah.
Honeycrisp. Couple responses. Kathy says Opal apples, good apple with a good price, because not a lot of people know about them yet, and I've actually not heard of that.
I've not
until
eaten an
No.
opal.
today.
Yeah.
So that's a new one. Mel says Aurora apples are the best. Sweet, crisp, and oh so juicy. They're yellow, but don't mistake them for a golden delicious. And she also says that she was born and raised in Wenatchee Valley, so she knows what she's talking about when it comes
nice.
to apples and orchards.
What about you two? What are your favorite apples?
What is yours?
Mine is Macintosh, like I said earlier. I remember picking them
Yeah.
at Green Bluff in
Green Bluff, I
Spokane. What was
love-
that reaction? You don't like a
We
Macintosh?
had this discussion in the newsroom yesterday, and he said Macintosh, and
good.
I was like, okay. You like
Well,
Macintosh?
what's your favorite, Casey?
Well, I like the Gala apples, to which he had the same reaction
Yeah,
that
not my
I just had to
favorite.
you.
Sorry.
What's your favorite?
We don't have one. The Pink Lady is my very favorite.
Those are
And
good.
I will regulate if you say otherwise.
Right.
This is a Fuji, which I brought
Fuji
from
are
home, and I do
delicious.
love Fuji too.
You know what?
Everybody
I
loves those.
apologize for judging you. I'm glad that you like the Macintosh.
Hurt my feelings on live TV. Thanks, Casey.
Well, I heard them in the newsroom yesterday and then again on live TV today. So we'll work on that.
genuine.
We'll
Have
work
an
on that.
apple, people.
So on Cinco de Mayo, maybe treat yourself to an apple dessert.
And come back next
Perhaps.
Friday. We're here every Friday, 9:30.
Have a good weekend.
See ya.